another California Guy video with your boy California Guy. What's up, everybody, and welcome to this video. This is another mini review trailer video for the upcoming Spider-Man Homecoming uh, trailer, Spider-Man Homecoming, that's coming out July 7th. Now, this Spider-Man movie that's coming out, if people know, I wrote about Spider-Man for a while. I've did radio shows on Spider-Man of Homecoming years before it became written. I'm a major Spider-Man fan. I've been reading Spider-Man for almost 2 decades. I've amassed a mass collection of Spider-Man, so I know everything about Spider-Man. And I'm a big fan of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. I'm mixed on the Amazing Spider-Man, but that's another story. I've looked at various animated Spider-Mans, and when I look at Spider-Man Homecoming, it's like a dollar late, too short. If you ask my opinion, it's a dollar late, too short. Let me break down the two trailers. Let me break down this version of Spider-Man real quick. If anybody followed the Civil War movie that came out last year, this version of Spider-Man was introduced in Civil War. It was introduced in Civil War, where Tony Stark, and this is spoiler, so I expect all you guys to have seen Civil War. But Tony Stark basically recruited Peter Parker from out of Queens. He was kind of an underground YouTube hero. This version of Spider-Man, I don't think he was fully Spider-Man yet. But he goes and recruits him. He goes there to pick up Peter Parker. He's 15 years old. He must be Spider-Man for a couple of weeks, it seems like. He asks his Aunt May for permission to go on a trip, which was to help him to battle Captain America and the other heroes. So Tony was recruiting heroes on his side. Now, if anybody's familiar with the Civil War comic book, I don't have to really break down that. But the point is, because it's about Spider-Man, not about Civil War, he was recruited for the purpose of helping him out. So from that point on, Spider-Man gets his gear from Tony Stark. He gets all the web shooters, all that stuff there. So this Homecoming movie is a post-Civil War movie, basically. So if you've seen Civil War in that version of Spider-Man, he was dropped back off into New York, back to Queens again, which that's Spider-Man's home base. And from that point on, the story starts from there. This is basically Spider-Man in the MCU. Now, to the people that's confused, if you've seen the Tobey Maguire movies, the Amazing Spider-Man movies, this is Spider-Man in a universe with Iron Man, Captain America, Daredevil, and kind of like the comic books. If you guys ever read Marvel comic books or watch cartoons, it's basically the same thing there. Spider-Man's origins is going to be revolved around him being in a superhero world. So it's kind of like how Batman is being used in the DC Cinematic Universe, almost, where you're seeing they rewritten Spider-Man to fit into the MCU. So this version of Spider-Man, there's gonna be a lot of Easter eggs to the Avengers. Some of the plot is going to be revolved around Avengers type stuff. So basically, this is Marvel's version of kind of like how you seen Ant-Man, Iron Man, Captain America, and the other MCU movies. This movie is going to heavily tie into there, especially with Tony Stark being in there, because a lot of Stark stuff is going to be placed in there in Avengers stuff. That was a part of the Sony deal. The deal that Sony made because the Russo brothers needed Spider-Man to be in the movie. So basically the deal was for Marvel to produce a Sony-driven movie, a Sony Spider-Man movie, because Sony has failed the last 2 times with Spider-Man. They failed with Amazing Spider-Man. So the next plan was to revitalize the franchise, was to have the Marvel Studios to produce it for peanuts, basically. They produced it with peanuts, and so they loaned out characters, and they kind of helped to ghostwrite a lot of the stuff, with Spider-Man Homecoming. This version of Spider-Man is going to be more in tone with the Stan Lee, Steve Ditko version of the character, which, if anybody knows the original lore, Spider-Man was a teenager. He was a teenager in the original version that Stan Lee got. He was a super teen. And so Spider-Man, if you read the first couple of issues, you read Amazing Fantasy and you read Amazing Spider-Man issue 1. In Amazing Spider-Man issue 1, you show Spider-Man saving, Jonah Jameson's son and yada yada yada, but he wanted to join the Fantastic Four. So that's basically what they're kind of taking. They're kind of using some of those ideals for this film with Jonah Jameson's son being saved, and then the Fantastic Four. Because Spider-Man, in the original lore, Spider-Man never liked, Spider-Man wanted to use his powers for selfish reasons. Basically, he never really cared for his powers, but he wanted to use it for selfish reasons. So in the original Marvel universe, the Fantastic Four, because Iron Man and Avengers is taking because they don't have the rights to the Fantastic Four right now. Basically, Iron Man is taking the spot of Reed Richards to the Fantastic Four, basically, and taking the spot of Nick Fury from the Ultimate Spider-Man line. Because in the Ultimate Spider-Man, Nick Fury was the one that helped Spider-Man to get his gear and all that stuff there, and be a part of it. And they kind of monitored Spider-Man in the Ultimate Spider-Man original run of that, and in the original uh, 616 universe of Spider-Man, he tried to get his, he tried to make money and be a celebrity by trying to join the Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Four rejected Spider-Man, and that was in issue 1 with the Chameleon. I'm sorry, I made a mistake when I said Jonah because you had 2 stories in issue 1. I'm sorry. In issue 1, Spider-Man tried to save a crashed space plane, but they had a backup story where Spider-Man first met the Chameleon, and so Spider-Man broke into the Fantastic Four's headquarters, not Four Freedoms Plaza. I forgot the name right now. It's not in my head because I haven't read it in a while. But he broke into that tower, and he faced the Fantastic Four. He wanted to join them, and he was like, "Well, no, we got our people, and we basically." But Spider-Man abruptly left, before they could really give him an answer. So that was the basic part of that. And then in Spider-Man issue 2, Amazing Spider-Man 2, he faced the Vulture. That was the first, because again, this movie is being based kind of around the first 2 issues of Amazing Spider-Man, where Spider-Man faced the Vulture and he was taking pictures. He was the first one to snap a picture of the Vulture, which was his way of working for the Daily Bugle in the original comic book, because Peter was poor. Peter was he was the first superhero to be really, really poor. So he was a poor teenager. So he worked for the Daily Bugle. And so this movie is sort of playing off of that a little bit, except again, it's going to be heavily in the MCU. So, people that really like the MCU and they always want to see Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you're going to be in for a treat. You're going to get the Avengers references of the Vulture. It's the featured villain. It's Shocker, and the Mad Tinker is in there. Bokeem Woodbine is Shocker, and so you're going to see them taking technology from the Centauri technology to use for the Vulture, and they're gonna try to do different things in New York. So basically, that's what you get. Because with the MCU, just again with the MCU basis is shared universe. So anytime you see a new character or an existing character, it's gonna really center around the MCU, like Daredevil, from the Netflix shows to the movies like Doctor Strange, because Doctor Strange, when they finally put Doctor Strange on the MCU, they kind of centered a lot of stuff around the MCU. But Spider-Man is going to be overtly MCU, because you're going to have, Captain America, references. You're going to have a lot of Iron Man stuff in there. And this was to complete Robert Downey Jr.'s contract, by the way. So, that was the answer in the secret project that was going on with the MCU, with Marvel Studios and Disney, was that Robert Downey Jr. was going to be not only in Civil War, but this movie and the next Avengers movie. So, you got enough Iron Man to really go around for a lifetime. You get Iron Man for a very, very long time. So, anybody that's Iron Man fans, you're in for a treat. Again, but you're getting a lot of MCU stuff. You got Zendaya that's playing a love interest of Peter Parker. It seems like they're going to be featured in Washington D.C. So you're going to see Spider-Man coming to his own in this film. Me personally, it looks generic to me. If you ask my opinion, it looks very, very generic. Again, Dr. Late too short. It's like having the X-Men over there at the MCU and they're writing them in. The movie, it may do well because a lot of people like the MCU. It's a brand at this point, MCU, and I love the MCU. I don't want people to understand. I love the MCU. I'm a fan of Doctor Strange, Ant-Man, Age of Ultron. I've always been a big Marvel fan for, like I said, 2 decades. Especially Spider-Man. So I know a lot about Spider-Man, and I know a lot about the whole Marvel universe structure because I've been reading. I still read Marvel today, so it's not like something I I stopped doing. And I'm a comic book lover, so I love comic books. But Marvel is doing something like DC. They're trying to, they're trying to use the concepts from the comic books on the screen. They're doing it on TV with Arrow and Flash, but they're finally doing it with Spider-Man. They're putting him into a shared verse with Iron Man, and Iron Man is the mentor. Again, if anybody's read the Ultimates, which I recommend people do, they took some stuff from the Ultimates where Nick Fury, he's playing the role of Nick Fury, was playing kind of in the Ultimates where Nick Fury was mentoring Spider-Man. He mentored him and everything else. So, my as a fanboy. Now I'm gonna talk speak for myself. I would like to see the Netflix shows heavily tied into the Spider-Man universe. I've been hearing different scuttles from different fans and Anthony Mackie saying this is a separate universe, and it's not a separate universe. And that's to people who listen to Anthony Mackie. It's in the same universe as Iron Man and Captain America because they referred to the incident, which was the attack on New York, but they haven't referred to like the Soviet Accords and those concepts yet in the TV shows yet. But I'm hoping that they could reference like Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, and all of them, and because they're all in New York. And if anybody knows the comic books of Spider-Man's world is centered around Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, and who else? I said Daredevil already. So all those characters on the Netflix shows, they center. Punisher came from Spider-Man comic books. Punisher was a featured player in Spider-Man's books. Luke Cage, he's been in 42nd Street in New York. Danny Rand has teamed up with Spider-Man. So Spider-Man has crossed paths with these major heroes. Jessica Jones in the original comic book, she went to school with Peter Parker. A lot of people don't know that. If you read Alias, she actually went to school with Peter Parker. She went to Midtown. So, Jessica Jones was actually heavily in the Marvel Universe in her original run of the comic book. She's actually seen Galactus walking around, which referenced the Galactus attack. That's Marvel's version of the attack of New York, by the way, when Galactus came to Earth and he was going to eat the planet the first time around in the Fantastic Four. Hopefully we get those references because I'm a big fan of the New York-based heroes. I've always followed Moon Knight and Iron Fist and Spider-Man and all those different characters. So I'm hoping that they will kind of lessen the Avengers a little bit and really focus in on those street heroes because there's so many aspects of the Marvel Universe that I really would like to see. Now, one thing about DC Comics that DC has done is DC has managed to focus in on C-list characters, other aspects of the universe. Now, I'm not talking about the films, but I'm talking more about the TV shows. They focused on other aspects of the DC universe. They focused in on parts that you really can't see on films, and they really took it and hammered it in on TV. So I'm hoping that Marvel, and they're sort of doing it with the Netflix shows, so they're going into other corners, but that's in my Iron Fist video, so you guys check out the Iron Fist video. But as far as Spider-Man is concerned, it looks okay. It looks very generic. Seems too forced to me. It has to be organic. It just can't be that, these guys you gotta show us why Spider-Man's special. And you just can't feature up Iron Man as an excuse for Spider-Man's existence. So I'm hoping that, it's not, I hope that Iron Man is basically a cameo, basically, but it's really about Spider-Man, and they don't overtly hit us with these Easter eggs. But like and share this video, people. Make comments about Spider-Man. Tell me how you feel. Peace out.